Hello from Daily Moral Story and welcome to today's moral story. Have you ever walked into a place you thought you knew, only to find a truth that changed how you see everything? This tale is about one undercover CEO, a dedicated store associate, and a surprising moment that altered their lives forever. Maybe you're seeking hope or a reason to believe in everyday kindness. If so, keep reading. You'll see how compassion can brighten even the most routine of places. Our main character faces a startling discovery after overhearing a shocking conversation. Let's dive in. Matthew Davis was not your typical executive. He was the founder and CEO of a retail chain called Bright and Beyond. Though he had ascended to what many would call a dream life, Matthew never forgot his own humble start. Back in college, he worked 2 part-time jobs, living in a cramped studio on a shoestring budget. He knew how it felt to struggle, and he vowed that if he ever built something big, he'd stay connected to the real-world experiences of his employees. Over time, as Bright and Beyond expanded, Matthew found himself in more boardrooms than break rooms. Whispers of low morale and budget cuts reached him. Some employees felt overlooked, complaining that top management cared only about numbers. Worried that he was losing touch, Matthew hatched a plan. He would go undercover in one of his own stores, posing as a new regional manager trainee named Matt. Early one Monday, he drove 2 hours away from headquarters to avoid recognition. He traded his custom suits for jeans and a baseball cap, determined to see what the store looked like beneath the polished surface. A short, polite woman named Karen greeted him. She was the store's floor manager, juggling endless tasks while training what she believed was just another corporate recruit. The store looked well organized at first glance, clean aisles, decently stocked shelves. Yet Matthew noticed small signs of stress. The tired expression on a cashier's face, the flicker of frustration in a customer's eyes when she couldn't find a certain item. He also sensed kindness within these walls. A greeter welcomed him warmly, and an associate guided an overwhelmed shopper with patience. It was a mix of tension and hope, reminding him why he'd founded this chain in the first place. Karen was serious, focused on hitting sales targets. She admitted the location had staffing shortages, budget constraints, and constant pressure to meet corporate demands. Matthew assured her he could learn quickly, recalling his youthful days bagging groceries and stacking shelves. Just then, he met Ryan, a sharp-aimed associate in his mid-20s. Ryan had a genuine smile and a habit of putting customers first. Not long after meeting him, Matthew saw Ryan help an elderly woman find items on sale, patiently leading her through aisles, double-checking prices, and sending her off with a kind wave. Something about Ryan's genuine approach tugged at Matthew. A part of him worried how upper management might react to an employee who spent so much time with one customer. Still, he admired Ryan's empathy. Throughout the morning, Matthew performed a range of tasks, stocking shelves, rotating items, assisting at the customer service desk. He noticed that Ryan never hesitated to go the extra mile. When a confused shopper couldn't locate cereal, Ryan didn't just point, he walked her directly to the correct aisle, even waiting while she compared brands. Another time, Ryan jumped in to help Donna, a longtime cashier, bag groceries for a frazzled parent wrestling with 2 toddlers. Karen observed from a distance, nodding slightly, as if both pleased and concerned. Matthew wondered what policies might hamper Ryan's good deeds. During his lunch break, Matthew sat in the cramped employee lounge munching a quick sandwich. He overheard 2 employees chatting about Ryan. One said he'd spotted Ryan covering a small bill for a customer who came up short on cash. "He might get in trouble," the other employee replied. "Corporate doesn't like us giving handouts. They track everything." Matthew pretended not to hear, but inside he felt a mixture of pride and worry. Back in his earliest days, he had once helped a family pay for groceries. Yet he knew how rigid corporate rules could be. If Ryan's actions came to light, he might face disciplinary measures. Later that afternoon, Karen reviewed some store policies with Matthew, who played the role of an eager trainee. She was concerned about rising costs, store morale, and turnover. "People quit because they feel unappreciated," she admitted. "But we have quotas to meet. Ryan is great with customers, but I'm afraid corporate will think he's inefficient." When Matthew asked about employees helping customers in extraordinary ways, she pursed her lips. "I've never reported it," she said. "I just don't want to shut down genuine compassion. Still, I'm in a tough spot. That evening, after closing, Matthew walked past the registers wiping down counters. Ryan was putting away stray items left on shelves. Curious, Matthew struck up a conversation. "I've noticed you're really patient with people." Ryan shrugged. "I grew up with just my mom, and we often struggled to afford basics. Sometimes strangers helped us. It's why I do what I do." Matthew's heart tugged. He recalled his own lean years and the people who had shown him kindness. He thanked Ryan for sharing, but Ryan seemed almost embarrassed by the praise. "I just can't ignore it when someone's in a tough spot," he said. Over the next few days, Matthew paid closer attention to Ryan's approach. He offered discreet coupons to customers in need. He helped short-staffed colleagues, often cutting his breaks short without complaint. The store was busy preparing for an upcoming holiday, and lines got longer. One afternoon, a shouting match erupted at a register. A frustrated man yelled at Ryan over an expired coupon, accusing him of favoritism. "I've seen you give handouts to other people," he yelled. "Why not me?" Ryan calmly explained that the coupon had passed its valid date, and the best he could do was offer a different discount. The man hurled insults before storming out. Despite the tension, Ryan never lost his cool. Customers who witnessed the blow-up later approached him to offer support. Matthew stood at a distance, quietly impressed. That evening, Matthew decided the time had come. He couldn't remain undercover after seeing Ryan's unwavering compassion. He asked Karen to gather everyone in the break room the next morning. When employees assembled, some looking curious, others tired, Matthew cleared his throat. "My name isn't just Matt," he began, removing his cap. "I'm Matthew Davis, the founder and CEO of Bright and Beyond." Gasps and surprised whispers rippled through the room. Ryan looked stunned, while Karen nearly dropped her clipboard. Quickly, Matthew reassured them. "I didn't come here to punish anyone. I came because I wanted to experience the store without filters. And now I have a few announcements." He commended the entire team for their resilience under pressure, then singled out Ryan. "I've been watching your compassion firsthand. You've gone beyond standard duties to help people who can barely afford essentials. I know some worry this might clash with policy, but as the CEO, let me say, genuine kindness should never be punished." Ryan's face turned red, and he glanced at the floor, clearly unsure what would happen next. Matthew continued, "I'm proud of you. Because of what I've seen, I'm establishing the Compassionate Care Fund, a new program to help customers who truly can't manage critical items. That way, if someone wants to help, they're not forced to pay out of pocket or fear reprisal." A wave of applause burst forth. Karen exhaled, relief evident in her eyes. Donna, who'd worried that Ryan might be reprimanded, clapped the loudest. Matthew wasn't done. "Ryan, I also want to promote you to Customer Experience Lead. Work with Karen to show others how empathy can blend with efficiency." Ryan blinked back tears. "I'm honored," he said. "I never expected any of this. I just wanted to help." Matthew smiled. "And that's exactly why you deserve it." The cheering employees gathered around Ryan, congratulating him. Word spread quickly among customers, who soon approached him with thanks. After the meeting, Matthew slipped away to a quiet corner of the store to reflect. He remembered how, as a young man, he'd wanted to build a company that treated employees and customers like family. Over time, corporate concerns, spreadsheets, and endless meetings had diluted that vision. But seeing Ryan renew it on the store floor reminded him of what truly mattered. Leadership, he realized, wasn't just about making tough calls in a boardroom. It was about valuing those on the front lines. A few days later, local news picked up the story. Reporters interviewed Ryan about his kindness, and they spoke with Matthew about going undercover. It's easy to lose sight of real people when you're stuck behind endless emails and conference calls, Matthew told the cameras. But we're in the business of connecting with communities. Ryan exemplifies how empathy can build loyalty. Yes, we have policies, but they should support compassion, not silence it. As the segment aired, more people became aware of Bright and Beyond's Compassionate Care Fund. Emails poured in from other store managers who'd seen acts of generosity from their staff. A wave of enthusiasm took over, with employees realizing they wouldn't be penalized for caring. To maintain structure, the fund had guidelines, budgets, and partnerships with local charities. But the overarching message was clear. It was fine to show kindness. Matthew flew back to headquarters to inform the board about his plan. Some executives voiced worries about possible financial burdens, but Matthew explained the plan's scope. The fund was modest, transparent, and would operate with oversight from store leaders. It wasn't meant to give away everything for free. The goal was to help truly desperate cases. Touched by the positive press and moved by Matthew's passion, the board agreed. Soon, new training materials arrived at stores, instructing employees on how to handle delicate situations. Every location got a small monthly allotment to cover emergencies. Some staff even contributed from their own paychecks, wanting to expand the fund's reach. As word spread, the store where Matthew had gone undercover became a success story. Customer traffic grew, with people favoring a place that genuinely cared about them. Karen watched morale soar. Turnover declined even more tellingly. Employees started sharing their own ideas for community outreach. Ryan partnered with a local food bank to set up donation drives in the store lobby. Karen arranged volunteer days, giving staff the option to help local shelters for a few hours each month. Matthew visited frequently, sometimes incognito, sometimes not, always eager to see that his vision for a more humane business culture was taking root. One afternoon, while reorganizing stock, Ryan spotted Matthew quietly walking the aisles, baseball cap back on. He waved. "Couldn't stay away, huh?" he teased. Matthew grinned, glancing around. "I've seen a lot of improvements," he noted. "Customers seem happier, staff seems proud. This is what I wanted for Bright and Beyond from day one." Ryan nodded. "You inspired all of us. But honestly, I think you just reminded people that being compassionate is never a waste." Matthew looked thoughtful. "I once forgot that. Sometimes it takes someone like you to bring it back." Let me pause for a personal reflection. Have you ever felt stuck in routines that dull your sense of purpose? Maybe you found yourself on autopilot, ignoring the small things that once drove you. Sometimes all it takes is one act of kindness, one real example of empathy, to shake us out of the haze. Think about a time someone showed you unexpected generosity. Did it shift your world, even for a moment? Our willingness to care can break barriers that statistics never could. Maybe you're in a position to offer that kindness right now, or maybe you need to receive it. Either way, your story matters. Back at the store, Ryan's promotion changed his life. He now helped train other associates in empathy skills, sharing tips on dealing with tough customer situations. He also got a pay raise, which allowed him to support his mom, who had never quite recovered financially after raising him alone. Karen also gained recognition, receiving a bonus for her leadership and willingness to encourage. She'd stood up for Ryan without corporate approval, which turned out to be a brave, career-defining decision. Meanwhile, employees who once dreaded going to work now felt a sense of pride. They knew their efforts were validated, not just in numbers but in genuine interactions. The Compassionate Care Fund became a staple in the company. Each month, employees nominated customers or local families in dire need, and a group of managers would review the cases. The fund provided essential groceries, prescription help, or temporary relief. The store displayed a board with updates. "This month you helped feed 4 struggling families," or "Thanks to everyone for supporting a local shelter." Customers began leaving thank you notes for the staff, recounting experiences of how a small act of kindness, backed by the fund, made an enormous difference. One heartfelt letter came from a mother who once had her toddler's diapers paid for when her card was declined. "You saved me from total embarrassment," she wrote, "and reminded me that good people still exist." Matthew shared these letters with the board, framing them as reminders of the brand's core values. Investors, who might have bristled at first, found themselves sharing news articles about the store's philanthropic angle. Demand for expansions rose, and the chain's reputation climbed. Prospective employees gravitated to Bright and Beyond, citing its culture of empathy as a key reason. In time, the company rolled out more humanitarian initiatives, including scholarship opportunities for promising employees and weekend skills workshops open to the community. Where once there had been cynicism, there was now momentum. Ryan's story spread beyond the local region. and he was invited to speak at a district gathering for store managers. Nervous but determined, he stood before an audience of leaders from different locations. He recounted how, as a little boy, he sometimes saw his mom quietly cry over unpaid bills, uncertain if they could afford groceries. "One day, a kind store associate covered the remaining cost for us," he said. "It wasn't a huge sum, but to us it meant the world. I never forgot that." The crowd listened in rapt attention. He explained how empathy isn't just about feeling sorry for someone, it's about stepping forward and making a small difference. The store managers gave him a standing ovation, many wiping their eyes. As the months went on, Matthew stayed committed to visiting different stores in disguise. Most times, employees didn't recognize him. He watched from afar, occasionally noticing small gestures echoing Ryan's approach. An associate might guide a disabled customer to an easier checkout lane, or a cashier might discreetly tip the bagger to help an elderly person carry groceries, though not all stores were perfect. The atmosphere had changed. Leadership from the top, now guided by Matthew's undercover insight, focused on fostering real connections. Karen's store remained a flagship example, continuing to show that empathy can be both good-hearted and good business. One day, Karen told Ryan that the old grouchy customer, who'd once erupted over the expired coupon, had come back in a surprisingly subdued state. "He apologized for how he acted," she said. "Apparently his life was in a bad place at the time. He heard about your promotion and the new fund, and he said it made him rethink his perspective." Ryan raised his eyebrows. "People can change," he said quietly. "Sometimes they just need a moment of clarity." Karen nodded. "You gave him that chance." At headquarters, Matthew continued to speak passionately about bridging policy and compassion. Some executives admitted they'd once believed employee generosity was risky. They worried about potential abuse or that staff might give away merchandise too freely, but those concerns never really materialized, especially under the new guidelines. Instead, employees had become more motivated. Profits were strong as customer loyalty soared. Bright and Beyond stores were often described in local media as places that valued people first, which only brought more goodwill and good business. After nearly a year, Ryan's role expanded. He traveled with a small training team visiting branches to teach best practices for empathetic service. He demonstrated how to de-escalate tense encounters and encouraged workers to listen for subtle cues that a shopper might be struggling. Matthew, now closer to frontline operations than ever, joined him on a few trips. During one session, an associate asked Ryan, "Aren't you afraid people might take advantage?" Ryan responded with honesty, "Sure, some might, but if you weigh that against all the genuine needs you meet, it's worth it, and our guidelines limit major risks." Ryan's story became an example in training materials. The company used it to illustrate how one employee's willingness to help could spark systemic improvements. Through interviews and internal newsletters, staff learned about Ryan's consistent approach, sometimes pitching in his own money, but now backed by official resources and respect. Karen's name also came up as a manager who could balance corporate responsibilities with moral integrity. They'd built a small, supportive ecosystem around the Compassionate Care Fund, ensuring transparency so no one would feel forced to open their wallets individually. Employees felt freer to show empathy without fearing they'd jeopardize their own security. Meanwhile, Matthew made sure the board understood that short-term profits aren't everything. "We need to stand for something more than just a transaction," he insisted. "Our employees shouldn't be afraid to help the vulnerable. That's why we formed Bright and Beyond, not just to move merchandise, but to build a network of people who support each other." The results spoke volumes. In marketing surveys, the brand's reputation soared, especially among socially conscious consumers. Social media filled with posts lauding the store for its caring approach. And in a market where big-box chains often got slammed for cold strategies, Bright and Beyond was a rare bright spot. While enjoying these positive developments, Matthew remembered how this transformation had begun. It all started with an undercover visit, a risk he took to gather truth on the ground. He recalled the moment he saw Ryan quietly slip a coupon to a struggling family. the hush in the break room when employees whispered about Ryan's generosity, and the heartbreak he felt at how that kindness might be punished by standard rules. He'd found exactly what he needed, a genuine example of empathy that reawakened his original mission. As the company culture solidified, Ryan remained humble. "I'm no saint," he'd say. "I just remember what it was like to be on the other side, wishing someone would offer a hand." People told him he was an inspiration, yet he insisted he was simply paying forward the help he and his mother once received. That humility endeared him further to colleagues, who saw him as approachable and real. Karen, who used to worry about losing good staff, now reveled in the low turnover and high morale. Everyone seemed to work with renewed purpose. Now let's highlight the deeper lessons here. Consider how a single individual can shift an entire organization through genuine kindness. Notice how leadership, when humbled and open to truth, can reshape policies to reflect core values. Watch how profits and community goodwill often flourish together when empathy is prioritized. This story reminds us that connecting with another human being, seeing their struggles and choosing to act, generates ripples far beyond any single moment. It also teaches that we don't have to choose between compassion and profitability. We can design structures so kindness thrives in any setting. And if you've been feeling disconnected, let Ryan and Matthew's journey remind you, real change is possible when you remember why you started and who you're serving. This story, whether real or fictional, we hope that somewhere out there, people truly encounter narratives like this. Stories spark hope. That's our tagline on this channel because we believe in sharing tales that uplift hearts and awaken possibility. May you take something from this story to use in your own life. Perhaps an extra measure of understanding for someone in need, or the courage to stand up for genuine kindness. Even the smallest action can change someone's day, or, as you've seen, maybe even alter the course of an entire company. Thank you for reading. We invite you to share your thoughts or experiences, because your voice can keep this flame of empathy burning bright. This story is not intended to offend anyone. Whether real or fictional, we hope that somewhere out there people truly encounter narratives like this. Stories spark hope. That's our tagline on this channel because we believe in sharing tales that uplift hearts and awaken possibility. May you take something from this story to use in your own life. Perhaps an extra measure of understanding for someone in need, or the courage to stand up for genuine kindness. Thank you for watching.